Awesome. All right, Michael. So we're gonna get it started here.
Okay.
And let's officially welcome you back. Welcome, Michael. So the presentation we have will be Michael Work, creating groups in Webby 4.2. And he is on live right now. So let me start sharing my screen so you can fire up.
And here we go. Can everybody see me now? It's a big Webby screen up.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, all right. I had the slides up earlier. I won't pop those up. I'm not sure how much of me you heard. So I'm just going to start it all over for the group section, and we can work our way through. So I was talking in the introduction, and again, I'm not sure how much of everybody got, but breaks, doing grouping is really, in a certain way you could look at it, is like doing breaks, really. You're trying to break each of your unique groups. You want to get the group values together, and one separated from the next, separated from the next. We do that with break statements right now, and I'm going to give you an example of that when we look at what we're doing here with what I've got set up on the left side. I already got the report set up and all. So we know there's a group button. We know it appears on the analysis toolbar. We'll take a look at it on top. And in the group buttons here for grouping dimensions, along with the breaking and sorting and filtering, and the break's going to work in conjunction with the group very nicely and give us some other options. So the first way you could look at doing a group is just, it's a break. Fundamentally, it's a break. So if I were to take this report, take the year column and say, we'll do a break on it, what it's going to do, it's going to do a break, a separate break for each year. But isn't that a form of a group? So it grouped all the 2018 states together as one group, as one distinct group from the next, and so on, all the way down the line. Some of you may notice the automatic subtotal feature. There's a trick to turning that off if you want to do it yourself as well, but that happens automatically. That's a 4.2 SP6 feature. Did carry over to 4.3 as well. But if you think about it, isn't that really what this is? Isn't it really a group? My 2018 group of states is here, and so on down the line. So technically, you could look at it that way. We could go one step further. We could go up to manage breaks. Let's do that right here. Go into the manage break windows and say, let's manage it. And play with the headers and footers and all that. But I could also come in here and say, start on a new page by check marking that one, and it'll put them on a separate page, and it's one step further, okay? So you think about little things like that you can do. Another way we could have done the break is done it as a value-based break. Now, if you think about it, that is a form of a group also. So as when we go in and do the manage breaks, we're going to look a little differently at this. We don't want to break on by every year, but only selected ones. Okay, maybe I just want to break on when it's 2020. I don't want to do it for 2021 rather. So you have this newer, it's a newer feature, I could tell you when it came in, called value-based break. A lot of people never use this, but and at the values level, you can say only break if it's a 2021 value, okay? And what's nice about it, it only breaks at the 2021 level. So 18, 19, and 20 are all run together as one group. And then the year 2021 comes out as a separate one. But what you're doing a break, but what you're really doing is grouping things together. That's really, when you look at it fundamentally, what you are really doing. So we can go in and let's remove the breaks from there, which takes all the features out with it as well. And we can take a second look at it that way. So the reason we do the groupings, not just for spreading things out like you saw there, but we also do it for another reason, because we want to redefine. And I don't know if it got caught the first time around, but IDC, there's certain types of codes they're using in hospitals, and they like to reclassify those sometimes and regroup them different ways. And I've had a number of healthcare organizations where I've taught before tell me they use it for the, whatever those codes are called, but they use it for reclassifying so they can instantly see the results in their report. It makes it a much nicer view all the way around, okay? So that was one way of doing things, in a simple way of doing a break, which really groups things together and it kind of spreads it out for you nicely that way. The classic way that we can now do a break is using the new group function here to do the grouping rather, and not use the break functionality at all. Now, it was designed for basically so that we could take and redo things right on the fly, but not having to do all the extensive work that comes with an if then else. So let me just drag these over and switch positions on these. Let's see, I'm gonna get my year of state. I want state to go first now for the remainder. Flip them around. So now I've got my state, followed by year and sales revenue. and so on. And I'll get rid of the margin. We don't need that in there. We'll get rid of that as well for that part of it. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the group function itself. And the group function has some very interesting twists and turns. If you would just think big picture, say, I want to group all the states together. And I do not want running one of those infamous if then else statements. Okay. If my state is California or Colorado, then at West Coast. Else if my state is DC and Massachusetts and New York, the Northeast, and so on. You know, you want it to be able to, so they lose this definition and they fly into that new group automatically, but I'm going to use the group function to do that, right? That wasn't in release for a long while, and it was in early 4 that it finally came out. We never had grouping, and we always had it in the desktop product, and I used to hear from students all the time about that. Well, when are they going to put a group in Webby? It's just not the same product. I'll stay with the desktop product, obviously, years ago as well. So let's take a quick peek at it, how easy this is to do, and give you some other uses for it. I click on the state column. We'll just go right up to the group. And it automatically kicks in and says, tell you what I'll do. I'll come back after going through your database and I'll build a distinct list of every unique state. That's what we want it to do. We're going to give this new variable that we're about to define the name of region. Isn't that what it is? So we're going to be giving it a new definition. Get it typed in there. Okay. Description boxes. Description boxes are kind of a unique thing. They're starting to pop up everywhere in 4.2. And I suggest you use them, especially with now it's available with local variables now. So if you're defining local variables, you couldn't put descriptive stuff in. Now you can. I like descriptions everywhere. What if I use region later on in a conditional formatting example? I might want to make a note in here that regions are driven or can be displayed uniquely using conditional formatting or something. There's a lot of good information in there as well. And look at how simple this is. And simplicity is what it's all about. Being simple, you know, a simple way for us to be able to do this and not have to go through the book or look online or look through your training books and wherever else. You want an easy way to do it. Being intuitive, being easy to figure out, covering all the bases. It really does all of those. So let's take as an example, I go down to the left edge and I said, we'll take California and Colorado. We'll just check mark those two. And now you have a decision. I can ungroup them. Well, I could have if they were already grouped, or I could move them to another group once I've got them defined, but right now those aren't available. I'm going to do an actual group. And what you have to do now is say, let's group this, and we'll call this one West Coast. Just to give it some nice unique name, West Coast will work for it. It now gives you the new group name on the right side, okay? Then I pick DC. They don't have to be in consecutive order. They can be scattered all over the place. Okay, let me get it just right in there. I want DC, Massachusetts, and New York. Oh, got to get it over just right for this. Once again, we're going to go up and hit the group button. Say, well, let's take care of those three, wherever they are. Call it Northeast. It's not my very favorite for the East Coast with all the baseball teams, Boston and New York and Washington, who beat our Detroit Tigers up, but we'll put them as Northeast. I made a little typo on those. If you had to fix any of the group names, you can do that by bringing up the group in this window here, bring up that particular group, like this one, Northeast, and then I can go in and say, let's edit it. And I mistyped it, so I could fix it. Well, not on top, I want to replace it. It remembers me having done this before. Obviously, you can tell that I have. Using those for an example. Allow me to selectively take care of those. Okay. Well, I closed it up by accident. So now I'll just go in and go, well, let's go to manage groups, bring it back up again. So I missed Florida and Texas. So let's get Florida in there and Texas. We got to keep in mind, whatever we do, these are going to no longer appear as states. They're going to appear as region. Unless I leave the state value alone, which they're going to appear and kind of make it a little confusing. So we'll do a group on this one here, and we'll call it Southeast. And then I have one loner, the single one. The old desktop product, it was always a little tricky to get the single values out there. Webby said, we'll leave it if you want, or we'll just do a single value. I don't care. So let's group that one. We'll call it Midwest. For that one. So I've classified them all. Okay, that's perfect. If I made a mistake, I can just check mark. I could check mark New York up here on the left side. I could say, let's move it to somewhere else, or let's unmerge it or whatever. Those are all choices you have. Of course, the age-old question comes up, wait a minute, what if a new entry comes in? What's it going to do? Well, by default, it's going to show the state. If we run this the next month and some new states appeared in our database, came up in our report, so you're going to see individual states. But Webby's got all the bases covered. It says, no, we can do this for you. Make it easy. Why don't you go to ungroup values? And it says you want just to show them, which is the default, or how would you like this to be automatically grouped? In which case it says, I'll default the group to others. Otherwise, you can change it to whatever you want. Now, this is really cool. Sometimes you want to just classify maybe 2 of them, and all the rest you want to automatically you don't want to have to define all those, just let them all sit out there. And if I don't assign them anything, they'll go into the others group, and I can filter others if I want off there, or I can do it off maybe these first 2 that I kept. So there's a lot of innovative ways you can think about using it as well. Okay.
Michael, there was a couple of quick questions that
Sure.
came in. Notice that you were able to reorder your columns by dragging a column up above the table and then back down where you wanted it. I'm
Over
pretty
here on the
sure.
left. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we used to be able to just drag the columns horizontally. If I remember that correctly, is that returning at some point? They're on 4.2 SP7.
It's a browser issue. When I ran into it is with Chrome. Chrome, I have problems dragging it in directly out. So what you saw me do is go up, across the top and down. Or if I want to move this one up, over and down, or up, over and out. You just have to get used to it. If it's a cross table, you kind of drag it around and over the top and drop it into place. It's a behavioral thing specifically for the browser, and that's it. I never saw it with Edge or IE, and I've not seen it. Just with Chrome issue. Many of my customer sites have run into that.
Yeah, so somebody just typed in that Edge is the same way.
And
so IE, of course, is going away. But another question that quickly came in: the group is based on the current data. Yep. Do we have to update the grouping when there's a new state in the data, like Arizona, for example?
What I was saying is, what if a new entry comes in next month? So what did I say? It's going to show up the state value, and it's going to have nothing here. So in your report, you're going to see the state value show up. Okay. So what you want to do is have an ungrouped values category like I did here that says automatically, or make them visible, or automatically group them together, call that group others. So any new entry comes in, by default, when you get it in your report for the groups column, you'll see others for those, and you're going to know by virtue of how that's named. Maybe you don't call it others, you call it undefined. But just by virtue of seeing that one or more that value show up, it's a way of letting you know, hey, there were some new ones that you didn't allow for earlier on. So this really helps you in managing that as well. Because you're right, if you don't create them out there, they're going to end up showing up as individuals. So easy thing to fix. Easy thing.
Right. Thanks.
Good. Keep firing away. So now I've got them out there. Okay. And notice what happened to my report. Now my reports got it based on region. And if I wanted to, I could take region and throw the old break on it, break it out for each region. So there's my Midwest, Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, and West Coast, and so on, all the way down the line. It worked to perfection. Look how easy it is. We can manage everything from there. We can redefine the groups later using the move feature that was in there. We accounted for the others. We could change the group names right on the fly. And look at how much it managed. I don't have a lot in here, but if I was grouping 50 states, it would be a nightmare, to try to group them together. Where I've seen people use the grouping in a very different kind of way. Number one thing I can think of was healthcare organization. And they had a document that they were creating, and it was sorted based on the patient ID, but they used the patient name, not the patient ID. And the problem was the patient's name wasn't spelled right every time they came in for a visit. So you had like 5 different records for that patient based on 5 different spellings of their name. So if you were to do this, you could group them on the fly, and then identify the first 5 going into one group, and the second 2 go into another group, and the third 2 or 3, and so on. So it allows you a kind of a way around it. Could be also if you're looking at customers, you have customers that are basically in the report and they're kicking them out by name, and the customer's been entered under multiple spellings of the name. This gives you the ability to do it automatically. So
another quick question that came in: how did you create the region variable?
Oh, when we did the group up here, now since it's already in there, I want to use manage groups because I don't want to create a new one. I gave the name right on top. So right up here is where you give it the name to whatever you want. It always shows you state plus. as a default value, and you know you don't want that. Sometimes you'll forget about it, and state bus will show up in the title, and you go, yeah, let me go manage that group again, and let me go back and fix that problem, for that. So yeah, that's how we did it. But notice now I have region, but I don't have state. Okay, so well, wait a minute, what am I going to do? Well, there's no rule or restriction says you can't put the state back in. Might slide it right in here, put it in right to the right of the region. Okay. Oh, I didn't. Oh, there you go. Now the state's been added in inside of that. Okay. So there it is. Now, if I'm going to undo the region later on, I'm going to have an interesting dilemma. I'm going to have two columns with state. Remember, we still wanted them grouped so we can take advantage of the break. And if it's diagnostic codes, we were regrouping them and to roll them into a smaller number of values. So, but you probably wouldn't want state, so we'll just take it out. We're back to where we were. Okay. And so you can see how easily with the group button, how easy it is to manage. Now to open it up, it created as a variable. This is very important. Okay. And these type of calculations you're doing might be great candidates for universe consideration. Have a special objects category, a separate folder in your universe. Either a tool will work for that, because maybe these groupings are broad enough that a lot of other people would want to use them. Even though they're easy to create, it's still a candidate anytime you look at variables. To edit it, you just double click on it like you would any other variable, but the difference is Webby knows it's a group. It knows it's a group, okay, not an individual, and it opens up this as opposed to the variable editor, and away you go. And you're able to move in and group them together. Grouping in the 4.3 is very, very similar, so it's easy enough to do. Transition there will be real easy for you as well. Okay, and you move them around, up and down, do whatever you have to do with them. Works perfect that way. So let's get rid of the break here, just to get that out of there for right now. So now I want to undo all that. Say, well, let's undo it. Okay, so how am I going to undo this? Well, number one way is you can go over to the region over here, and if you right click on it, okay, I can do a delete there, or what most things people would typically do is you just double click on it instinctively, and here it is. And to ungroup them, you would just click over here on the state button, highlights them all. You can go up and hit the ungroup button there. They're all ungrouped, and then you do an OK, and it closes it out, and there you go. Now, I've had situations before with grouping, like I did just there, where when I undid it, when I clicked OK on it, it threw an error condition in here. See, there's the syntax. I undid it the other way, screwed it up that way. That's not what I was intending to do for that one. It screwed it up that way. So, so I already undone it, so it's gone. Okay, you won't see the variable anymore. So it would have defaulted to state, but I'm screwing around with the undo and redo over here and ended up throwing errors. So what I try to do when I get rid of them is I like to highlight the column and go directly up to the group button and do it there, as you saw me when I was looking at it earlier. So that's a way that you can do it for that. But what I like to do is, yeah, highlight, open up the group, manage groups from here, and then I've never had an issue with pop up at all. But it has once in a while throw this funny syntax error. And those are little quirky things that you run into. For me, it's my position. I want to figure out how do I get around it. If it's an issue, how do I get around it? And it's usually little things by trial and error that you're able to work through as well. Okay. So now we have, let's get rid of that column, get it out of there. I may have to get rid of the whole block. I can just get rid of the thing, move it around and delete it out. Yeah, we'll just so I'll recreate the report. Doesn't matter what order now. Let's state, year, a couple. Let's do our year and our sales revenue and our quantity sold. We'll get all 3 for 1. Crop those into place. Okay. So state, year, sales revenue, quantity sold. Now let's do it the old classic way, the way we used to have to do it. The way we probably did it using other products as well. And it's creating a variable. I'll just do a little simple example showing a variable, how you would do this. Creating a separate if then else expression, and review a couple little things that you can use online to help you in that process. So I'm just going to create a variable right up front. I have to highlight the state column, whatever else. I want to create a new variable. Okay. So how do I do that? Well, on the data access tab up here is new variable. Okay. And I can also go to the variables tab over here, do a right click on it, and do a new and add it either way. It does the same thing. And by the way, this little variable button's now over on the right side in 4.3. So some things you're going to have to get your orientation around a little differently as well, but you learn very quickly as well. So we're going to create a new one. Let's take advantage of this. Here it is. We're going to call it region right again. There we go. Give it a description, make sure it's a dimension. It's not going to work for a measure. Now I define the formula. I hate when you're limited in size, but give as much space as I can for the formula portion of it there. Lock that in. And now I need to define it. Well, we need to start with an if statement. So I'll put equals and then if. And of course, the editor will often give you a list of possible candidates based on what you typed in. So I want to start by saying if my state is in the list of values and then supply the values. And for us, it'll be California, Colorado. Then we'll make it West Coast and we can stop or add the else if condition as well. This is the hard way. This is the long way. So I have my if. I'll bring state up here next, state. Double click it up there in many cases as well. If my state, over on the right side in the available operators window is the in list. Over right there. If you're not sure what format, what it's supposed to be, I could have a left parent and a right parent after it, and the list of values goes inside, kind of a generic one across other products you've seen in the market. But if you're not familiar, you're not exactly sure how you put the values inside. Do they have quotes, single, double? How are they separated? By commas? What you can do is use the more on this function help. I'm amazed how many people never take advantage of the extended help button down here on the right. May not have the window open far enough to see it, okay? Up comes the online help. 2/3 of the window is what you're looking at specifically when you went in. The other third is more of the general documentation index, and you can look at other things while you're in there. And you want to be careful when you use these online help. Use the examples. Don't go by generic up here. It says a Boolean test value in list value list. That's a whole lot of help, you know. And you move down the line, and eventually you get down to here and say, here's an example of if resort, and maybe a resort universe, is in the list, Bahama Beach, Hawaiian Club, then US resort. There it all is, so you can see what you have to do. Each value goes inside the double quotes, semicolon separator takes care of it for us, and everybody's happy. So we took advantage of the tools that are there. There are so many of those that people just ignore. All right, so in the list of values, now the unenviable task of having to type the values in. California and Colorado, they're bad enough, but can you imagine if you had others like Massachusetts or some of the longer names? But along came a feature introduced a long time ago in version 4, got to be a 4.1, called the values button. And it's fantastic. I had training I was doing recently for somebody who had been working the product 10 years and didn't know the values button was there. Well, it came in, midway through. So if you click on the values button here, well, first of all, you got to highlight. In the HTML version, I had to make sure state was highlighted. And then when I hit the values button, it's going to bring up a list of all the unique state values. And you just select using your standard multi-select. Control key works great. You pick the ones you want, and they don't have to be consecutive. And it automatically inserts them in between. Some of you that have never seen this before ought to be salivating, because now you might be doing in lists with 10 or 12 values inside each parentheses. So if state is one of these 10 or 12 values, then else if it's another set of 10 or 12. Long strings for easily mistype, fat finger. Say, well, let's do a then, and we'll say double quote West Coast, double quote. There's my expression. I used the classic in list. I could have had more than 2. I know the values are correct because they inserted it for me. Webby took care of it. I didn't have to worry about it. I checkbox it to make sure it's clean. Get your brains in order, because this is all going to shift going this way from the bottom here, sideways going across that way. So a little different look to the editor, but more room, as Samuel showed you earlier today as well. So I only went as far as West Coast. I could say else if state in list, and I could do Texas in Florida and call it Southeast and all that. But we'll just stop right there for time's sake. Say, well, that looks good. It cleared. All right. And here we go. And there we go. And a less experienced user normally comes back and says, well, what did Webby do? It didn't put the region in the report. No, it didn't. You know why? Because you didn't have it in the report to start with. We didn't convert something. It created a new variable. Now it's our responsibility merely to drag it in, put it in there next to the state. And you can see the West Coast values. All the other ones are blank. But as I add more else if conditions and so on, look how easy it was to do. Notice little things like this. Look at the pop-up. Look how the pop-up help message, just by moving your mouse, gives you the actual expression, the calculation, without you having to go down a list of 10 of them and click on each one to see what it looks like. By scrolling up and down, it shows you how it's derived. That is really cool. And you now have description boxes for these as well, as we saw a couple minutes ago. So here's yet another way of grouping things the hard way. Sometimes you might have to because it's a bit quirky the way you wanted to do your groupings. Might have had some complex if and if something and that kind of logic. It could get pretty convoluted. So sometimes the group may not work for you, but in this particular case, using the if then else got us around. The if function would work similarly. And the if function is also identified, by the way, in the help message. So when we went to the, if we wanted to go to the help, let's open up region again. Let's double click and edit that one. And if you go down, let's go down to the if expression. If is stored under miscellaneous. They didn't know where to put it, so they stuck it in a separate category. So if you're looking for the if then else, here's the if. You said, well, I want to be a smart user. I want to go to more on this function down in the corner. I select more on this function. It says, cool, let's go. And it gives you all the if. And here's some examples. If sales revenue greater than 1 million, then high revenue, else if. It's all laid out in black and white. But here's the if. You said, well, I'm an Excel bigot. I want to do everything the Excel way. How are we going to do that? Well, click on the related information if, and much to your surprise, here it is as an if function. And I, to this day, have people that they're staunch Excel. They're going to do it as an if function. I said, fine. When you have a lot of else if statements, it gets a bit much more work to do for putting them together. But nevertheless, there you go. So again, I have a little handout. If you guys, whoever wants to email me later on, it would be great. Post this. And the handout, which I unfortunately did part of today, but not knowing I was disconnected. So good content. Everything that I did is very well detailed. A couple of little things in there as well. So let me try to keep us on schedule for that. So that completes the first part of this for grouping. Any other questions?
Not at this time. Just a couple of comments about using prompts, super helpful, and especially valuable when trim is not in use. But really just exchanges of information based on what you're showing there. So
Yeah.
no more questions.